Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, Mr. Dr. Handi Pratama, SPD MA, as my first examiner, Mrs. Pasca Kalisa, SPD MA, MPD, as my second examiner, and Mrs. Intan Pernata Sari, SPD MPD, as my advisor. Today, I would like to present my final project entitled International Undergraduate Students' Challenges in Facing Culture Shock at International Classes of UNNES, a case study of international students of UNNES in the academic year 2018-2019. Okay, and for the background of the study, UNNES has a motto, becoming a conservation university with international reputation. One of some ways to reach the motto is being a world-class university. UNNES is in the second cluster of the best universities in Indonesia based on Kemendristek Dikti. To become world-class university, UNNES needs to increase its cluster to the first cluster. Based on Kemendristek Dikti, some criteria to be the first cluster university are the amount of internationally accredited major, the amount of foreign students, and the amount of university's partners. UNNES needs to be care of its international students in order to reach its goal. One of the problems of the international students is culture shock. UNNES needs to know what factors contribute to culture shock in UNNES and some ways that UNNES can do to help them adapt to the new culture. Then, for the reason for choosing the topic, as the development of students' exchange in the world, culture shock becomes common phenomenon now. UNNES has 13 international classes and 13 international students in the academic year 2018-2019. They may experience culture shock and it could give bad impacts to their academic and social life. Based on the situation, the writer wants to know what factors contribute to culture shock faced by international students in UNNES, so the people who take roles in the culture shock could avoid or fix them. The writer also thinks that UNNES can help its the writer also thinks that UNNES can help its international students. Hence, the writer wants to investigate what the international students think UNNES can do to solve their problems about culture shock. And then, for the research problems, there are two research problems. First, what factors contribute to culture shock of the international students of UNNES? And second, what do international students of UNNES think university can do to help them better adjusting to the new cultural milieu? And then, for the objective of the study are first, to find out the factors that contribute to culture shock of the international students of UNNES, and second, to find out some ways that UNNES can do to help its international students in better adjusting to the new cultural milieu. Then, a review of the previous studies. There are some previous studies. First, from Sila 2013, he conducted a qualitative study about culture shock as an obstacle for foreign language learners and their expectation from the host culture. And the results showed that foreign students had some major difficulties adjusting to academic requirements, particularly with demands of the English as foreign language program. And then, The second is from Louis, Ching, and Su, 2013. They conducted research about international students' adaptability in Taiwan, and the result showed that international students' social adaptability can have a direct influence on how they establish their social networks. Some major factors include the availability of cross-cultural opportunities such as foods in the night markets, scenic places to visit, and coupled with easy access to mass transportation. And then from Roscoe 2013, he conducted research about the teachers' experiences of culture shock, and the results showed that the teachers encountered double culture shock. Those are host culture adjustment and work culture adjustment. And then from Museum and Cooper 2016, they conducted a research about international students' cultural and social experiences in a British university, and the result showed that the main factor of culture shock was cultural differences. Differences included different opinion about politeness, individualism, communication difficulties, religions, and geopolitical events. And then the last from Fakir 2018. He conducted a research about intercultural adaptation strategies to culture shock of international students in China, and the results showed as psychological and social issues affect negatively the sojourner. The culture shock and adaptation curves show ups and down trends as our heart does all the time, and this is called heartbeat, and again this won't be sustainable. And then the theoretical review for the symptom of culture shock from Obert 1954. Culture shock is like a disease which has some symptoms, and those are: first, excessive washing of the hands; second, excessive concern over drinking water, food, dishes, and bedding; and third, fear of physical contact with attendants or servant; and fourth, the absent-minded faraway stare; and fifth, a feeling of helplessness and a desire for dependence on long-term residents of one's own nationality; and sixth, fits of anger over delays and other minor frustration; and seventh, delay and outright refusal to learn the language of the host country; and eighth, excessive fear of being cheated, robbed, or injured; and ninth, great concern over minor pains and eruption of the skin; and the last, the terrible longing to be back home. Okay, and then the stages of culture shock based on SIA 2009. There are 4 stages. The first stage is honeymoon stage. In this stage, people who go to the new place and new culture will feel like there is no problem, and they are enjoying their new culture. And then in the second stage, in the crisis stage, they have bad experiences and they feel stressed and frustrated. And then in the third stage, the adjustment stage, they try to adjust to the new culture. And then in the last stage, the mastery stage, they can adjust to the new culture and they can adapt to the new culture. And then the international students, based on Belhadi and Ayan 2016, international students are the students who leave their home country and move to another one with the singular goal of studying. Then culture shock based on Cooper 2008. Culture shock is a state of disorientation that can come over anyone who has been thrust into unknown surroundings away from one's comfort zone. And then the factors of culture shock based on Raja Sekar and Renan 2013, and this theory also included in my final project. Based on them, the factors of culture shock are communication, dress, ethics, individualism versus collectivism, food, language, structure, perception, power distance, religion, rules, time orientation, tradition, and weather. And then the strategies of culture shock based on Akaro 2018, and this theory also included in my also used in my final project. And based on the researcher, the strategies of culture shock are counseling, awareness campaign, acculturation, and cooperation. Then research methodology. For the research design of my final project is qualitative case study, and the research participants are 13 international students of UNNES in the academic year 2018-2019. And then for the research instrument, the researcher or the writer used questionnaire and interview form. For the procedure of collecting the data, first, preparing the instrument. Second, asking permission of the participant to answer the questionnaire. Third, contributing the questionnaire to the participants. Fourth, analyzing the participants' answer toward the questionnaire. Fifth, choosing the participants to join interview. Sixth, asking permission of the participants to join interview. Seventh, conducting interview. Eighth, transcribing interviewees' answers. And the last, ninth, gathering the data. And for the procedures of analyzing the data, first, collecting data from questionnaire, and then second, analyzing and summarizing the questionnaire result, and third, collecting data from interview, and then fourth, analyzing and summarizing the interview answer, and the last, fifth, drawing conclusion. For the finding and discussion, the result of the questionnaire, there are 13 results here based on 13 participants. Participant number 1 or P1 until participant number 13 or P13. P1 give 6 agreement. P1 give 6 agreement and 8 disagreement. P2 give 7 agreement and 7 disagreement. P3 give 3 agreement and 11 disagreement. P4 give 7 agreement and 7 disagreement. P5 give 8 agreement and 6 disagreement. P6 give 4 agreement and 10 disagreement. P7 give 8 agreement and 6 disagreement. P8 give 5 agreement and 9 disagreement. P9 give 7 agreement and 7 disagreement. P10 give 8 agreement and 6 disagreement. P11 give 8 agreement and 6 disagreement. P12 give 7 agreement and 7 disagreement. P13 give 5 agreement and 9 disagreement. Based on the theory from Raja Sekar and Renan 2013, it can be concluded that P1, P3, P6, P8, and P13 are not suffering from culture shock because they choose agree less frequently than disagree. However, P5, P7, P10, and P11 are suffering from culture shock because they choose disagree more frequently than agree. Besides, P2, P4, P9 and P12 are in between because they choose agree and disagree equally. This data then used as the references for the writer to conduct an interview to find out some ways that UNNES can do to help its international students in better adjusting to the new cultural milieu. And then, for the result of the factor of culture shock, um, based on the theories from Rajaskar and Brennan, there are 14 factors of culture shock. First, communication, get 7 agreement and 6 disagreement. Dress, get 3 agreement and 10 disagreement. Ethics, get 6 agreement and 7 disagreement. Individualism versus collectivism, get 7 agreement and 6 disagreement. Food, get 1 agreement, only 1 agreement and 12 disagreement. Language, get 8 agreement and 5 disagreement. Structure, get 10 agreement and 3 disagreement. Perception, get 3 agreement and 10 disagreement. Power distance, get 5 agreement and 8 disagreement. Religion, get 6 agreement and 7 disagreement. Roles, get 9 agreement and 4 disagreement. Time orientation, get 6 agreement and 7 disagreement. Tradition, get 10 agreement and 3 disagreement. And the last, weather, get 2 agreement and 11 disagreement. It can be concluded that all factors of culture shock that stated by Rajasekar and Renan 2013 also exist among the international students of UNNES in the academic year 2018-2019. The most influencing factors of culture shock of the international students at UNNES are structure and tradition. Besides, the least influencing factor of culture shock of the international students of UNNES is food. And then, for the interview result, there are 10 questions. And then, for the first question, after you answered the questionnaire about culture shock, do you know what culture shock is? And the 3 interviewees, those are P7, P10, and P11, answer that for P7 answer that he knows well about culture shock and mentions his experiences of culture shock. And P10 answer that he knows little about culture shock, and P11 answers that he does not know about culture shock. And then for the second question, have you ever told your problems to the institution, such as lecturer, faculties, or office staff? And then P7 answer that he always tells his problems to some lecturers in his faculty. And then P10 answers that he rarely tells his problems, only once when he told about language problem to the lecturer. And then P11 answered that he never tells his problem to other people in UNNES. Then, for the third question, as long as you are in UNNES, is there any action from institution to help you or other international students to solve the problems about culture shock? If any, how does UNNES do such thing? P7 answered that there are some actions of UNNES to help them. Those are discussions with some lecturers. P10 answered that UNNES has never held any action to help their problems. And P11 answered that he has never seen and joined UNNES action to help its international students' culture. And then the fourth questions, based on your own knowledge, do you know whether or not UNNES has ever held counseling for its international students? P7 answered that there are some counseling in his faculty. P10 answered that counseling was not held by UNES even in the faculty. And then P11 answered that there was no counseling for UNES international students. And then for the fifth question, what do you think about counseling that has been held by an institution to help its international students in dealing with culture shock? P7 answered that counseling can help him to deal with culture shock, and then P10 answered that counseling can help the international students if it is held by the institution, and P11 answered that counseling will be effective to help its international students. For the sixth question, do you think you need such counseling to be held by UNES? And P7 answered that UNES needs holding counseling regularly. P10 answered that he needs counseling. It is better if the counseling is held regularly twice in a month. And then P11 answered that UNES needs to do the counseling for its international students. And then the seventh question, do you know whether or not UNES has ever held awareness campaign such as workshop or orientation about the adjustment of culture shock? P7 answered that UNES has ever held a seminar. However, the seminar was for all international class students, and the seminar was held in each faculty. P10 answered that he does not know whether or not UNES has ever held awareness campaign, even through TV, radio, or social media. And P11 answered that he has never seen such action was held in UNES. And for the eighth question, if UNES has ever held such awareness campaign, do you think it is effective for its international students to adjust their culture shock? P7 answered that it is effective. He can learn what he wants to know from the awareness campaign, and P10 answered that it will be effective because it can help its international students to know about Indonesian culture, and then P11 answered that it will be good for the international students to adjust their culture shock. Then for the ninth question, if UNES has never held such awareness campaign, do you think UNES needs to hold such awareness campaign? And P7 answered that UNES must hold such awareness campaign to solve the international students' problem about culture shock. P10 answered that UNES needs to hold the awareness campaign to help its international students, and P11 answered that UNES needs to do such awareness campaign for its international students. And for the last question, 10th, what do you think UNES can do to help you as an international student in better adjusting to the new culture? P7 answered that by making an organization that the members are not restricted, and all of UNES students can join the organization. P10 answered that by holding a seminar about Indonesian culture for its international students. And P11 answered that by holding a trip for international students. International students need to learn the new culture from the trip. So, based on the data above, it can be concluded that some ways that UNES can do to help its international students in better adjusting to the new cultural milieu are: first, UNES needs to hold counseling for its international students, so when they have problems, they can meet the counselor and ask for solution for their problems. And then second, UNES needs to hold counseling regularly, twice a month or once a month. And then third, UNES needs to hold counseling in each faculty in UNES. And fourth, UNES needs to hold the awareness campaigns such as workshop or orientation about the adjustment of culture shock. And then the last, UNES needs to hold such awareness campaign in the level of university and not just in the level of faculty. Then, for the conclusion, there are 14 factors that contribute to the culture shock of the international students of UNES. Those are communication, dress, ethics, individualism versus collectivism, food, language, structure, perception, power distance, religions, rules, time orientation, tradition, and weather. Then, some ways that UNES can do to help its international students in better adjusting to the new cultural milieu are first, counseling in its faculty regularly, and awareness campaign, and second, awareness campaigns such as workshop or orientation in the level of university. And then, for the suggestion, UNES should give more attention to the factors that influence its international students in adapting to the new culture. And then UNES should hold awareness campaign in formal way and in the university level. And then UNES needs to hold counseling for its international students regularly, and the lecturer, experts, and counselors can be together and give the solution of the international students' problems about culture shock. And the last, UNES should prevent its international students from suffering of culture shock by giving as much as information about the host culture before they come to UNES. That's all about my final project. Thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi